Hello, New York Giants fans. Welcome back to Everything New York Giants with New York Giants Fangirl. I'm Adrianna. Today we are going to briefly recap the Giants' close loss to the Rams and then preview the Giants versus Eagles Week 18 game. It was announced that it's going to be 4:25. It's at home at Metlife. So let's briefly touch on the Giants versus the Rams. So it was announced prior to the game that Tyrod was going to be the starter for the Giants. You know, he did some good things and he did some not so great things. He was 27 for 41 for 319 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 6 sacks for 35 yards. So some of the sacks didn't need to be taken. And I know this is the same complaint that we all have with Daniel Jones and with Tommy DeVito. DeVito's still learning, but at some point, and for someone like Tyrod, who's been in the NFL for like 13 years, you have to know when not to take the sack, and you have to be able to throw the ball away, and you have to be able to escape the pocket. Now, Tyrod has typically done a pretty good job this year of doing that. Against the Rams, I don't know what happened, but he definitely struggled there. I think he gave us the best chance to win. I don't think it was the wrong decision to start him. I think that, like I said, he did some good things and he did some bad things. Obviously, the worst thing that he did was the last play for the Giants, the horrific dump-off pass to Saquon that was behind him for the 2-point conversion that would have probably sealed the game. He spoke to the media after the game and said that, you know, it's 100% on him. That was his fault. That was the call, but he decided, he was basically undecided and couldn't figure out if he should just continue to run it or if he should dump it off to Saquon. I'm sure, like me, you guys were all screaming at the TV to run it because Saquon was right there and was going to be able to block for him so he could run it in. And he didn't. And as far as I'm concerned, look, it is what it is. I would have liked to win the game. It would have been nice to bump the Rams out of the playoffs. I know everyone's happy that we lost because we get a better draft pick, blah, blah, blah. But this is a metaphor for the Giants season. A, stupid decisions. B, stupid mistakes. And C, just horrific execution across the board. We saw Jalen Hyatt with a big drop in the beginning of the game. We saw Saquon with absolutely awful drops. The run game was not great. The passing game was better. But then you've got holds on Bellinger that negate the beautiful, 70-yard pass he threw to Hyatt. Probably would have resulted in a touchdown. It's just things like that. There were a lot of stupid mistakes, a lot of them being holding calls. Listen, the officiating was garbage, as it usually is. The fact that I think the Rams had maybe 1 holding call and the Giants had like 3 times as many penalties was absurd, especially in their own stadium. They just can't catch a break, you know? But we all know the officiating has been trash across the league this year. I will not talk about the Cowboys and the Lions game, but we know. Also, speaking of officiating, the fact that Dable had to use 2 challenge flags on the first drive, again, just do your fucking job. Sorry. But like in any other world, if you didn't execute and had glaring mistakes like that, you would be fired. At the very least, reprimanded, demoted, lost money, something. Not the refs. Not the refs. And God forbid the players come out afterwards and talk shit about them because they'll get fined. So, you know, Dable was fuming about it after the game. He was asked about the calls. And, you know, I kind of wish that he would just tell them that they all suck, but also, like, I get why he doesn't. He has more self-control than I do, but then again, there's a reason. Anyway, I don't know, just frustrating things. So only 105 yards rushing. Saquon, 12 carries for 39 yards. Tyrod, 6 carries for 40. Wandale had a beautiful run, 1 carry for 24 yards, and Eric Gray, 1 for 2. So not a good rushing attack. The run blocking was bad. Just Not good. The passing attack, on the other hand, like we talked about, was way better, 319 yards. Darius Slayton leading the way. Finally, the Giants have a receiver with an over 100-yard passing game since Jalen Hyatt, who did it, in week 13 or 14 at this point? It's been a while. So great game for Darius Slayton, 4 receptions for 106 yards and the 1 touchdown. He had 6 targets. It is what it is. Wandale, out of 9 targets, 6 receptions for 55 yards. Waller, 5 receptions out of 6 targets for 51 yards. Bellinger, 4 for 4 for 39. Hyatt, 3 for 4 for 25. Barkley, 3 out of 6 for 19. And Hodgins, 1 out of 2 for 18. Eric Gray, 1 out of 1 for 6. And then Shep had the 1 target and no receptions. That was also super frustrating. Literally was in his chest. I know everyone talks about the receiver core. We definitely have a lot of frustrations there. It's going to get upgraded this offseason. That's all I will say. Let's move on to the defense because I do want to keep this pretty quick. Bobby Okereke, our beloved best player on this team, no questions asked. Well, I'm sorry. Dexter Lawrence is right up there with him. 10 total tackles, led the team, 2 solo, 1.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, and 2 quarterback hits. Bobby Okereke might have played his best game as a Giant during the Rams game, and he's just one of those guys that I absolutely love. I know a lot of us were excited about him being signed on to the Giants this offseason, but to just see the way that he has progressed and improves and been unbelievable. Chef's kiss, the most perfect off-season signing that Joe Shane could have done. Love him. So happy he's going to be back next year. Nick McLeod, another guy who actually did quite well on Sunday. He got the starting slot with Tay Banks being out with a shoulder injury. 8 tackles. Adoree was behind him with 7. Adoree also had a pass deflection. Adoree also missed the most ridiculous tackle in the whole world that we all saw this, right? Puka Nacua ended up taking off down the sidelines for another 60 yards probably. And Dane Belton, we're going to get into him, beloved Dane Belton, just came in and said, not on my watch. Adoree can't make tackles, but I can. So Dane Belton had a hell of a game. He had 1 fumble recovery and he had 2 interceptions, I believe. Yeah, 2 interceptions. Unbelievable game for him. He's a guy that when he is on the field, he is a ball hawk. He has done really well. I'd like to see him get more playing time. We'll see, obviously, how things go over this offseason. He's young. He's only in his 2nd year with the Giants, but he's done really well. He's a guy that I'm really fond of and excited he's a Giant and want to see more of him. So let's make our way down to Isaiah Simmons, who also had possibly one of his best games as a Giant so far. 4 total tackles, 3 solo, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, and 1 quarterback hit. Beautiful. That sack came at the most perfect time. I think it was 3rd and 9 and ended up turning the ball over to the Giants. And that was when we went down the field and almost won. Almost. Not quite. But another guy who's had good games with the Giants, Ashawn Robinson, is really coming on. I hope he's a guy that comes back next year. Nacho had probably his best game too. 4 tackles, 3 solo. He had half a sack and 1 quarterback hit. Jihad Ward, another guy with a quarterback hit. He had a good game. Dexter, 2 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. Like we talked about, Dane Belton, he also had 2 pass deflections. And then lastly, I wanted to talk about Aziz because he had 2 quarterback hits. So, there's definitely some frustration with some of these players like Kayvon. But overall, I think a lot of the guys on the defense have really stepped up, and I would like to see a lot of them come back next year. Let's move along to special teams because for once in our lives, special teams went above and beyond our expectations. Not entirely, because Mason Crosby missed 2 kicks, but Gunnar Olszewski did something that this Giants team and fan base has not seen in 8 years. He returned a punt for 94 yards for the touchdown. And again, that's when we almost won the game. We just couldn't pull it out, but he was close, Crosby was 2 for 3 on the field goal attempts and 1 for 2 on the extra points. I mean, from what I heard from people who were there, it was very windy. Now would be the time for a retractable roof. Again, we got our own kickers who can't even do it. Listen, I know Crosby is new to the team, but bro, you've been in the league for a long time. You gotta make these kicks. And Jamie Gillen had 5 punts for 222 yards, averaging around 44. Not terrible. 1 inside the 20, and the longest was 52 yards. So, listen, obviously they didn't do enough to win the game, but I did see some good things out of this team, especially the defense. We saw the offense take some good shots down the field. Darius Slayton had one of his better games as a Giant, and, it's stuff that we can build upon. So, I feel overall decent about that game. Let's talk about the upcoming game. The Giants take on the Eagles. The Eagles who lost to the Cardinals. You know what I think is really funny is that Eagles fans and Cowboys fans will talk shit until they're blue in the face, and they both lost to the fucking Cardinals. You know who beat the Cardinals though? Danny Dimes and the Giants. So does that technically make us better than the Cowboys and the Eagles? I think it does. I think it does. I'm kind of kidding, but I mean the Eagles. I'm kind of excited to play them on Sunday. I'm not going to lie. The way that the Giants played them on Christmas was frustrating, like it usually is, but I will say that the way that they finished out the game made me feel like, okay, maybe we can beat this time the next time we play them, which is going to be Sunday. Now, Nick Sirianni has made some questionable decisions. The biggest one is that he was talking about sitting his starters on Sunday, even though we play the same time as the Cowboys. So it's not like he's going to know that the Cowboys won and they got the number 1 and they won the NFC East. You know what I mean? Just questionable. Why would you do that? So anyway, I already feel like the Giants are definitely going to have an opportunity to pull off the win against the Eagles. I mean, if they rest all their starters, there's no question. And I know all of you guys who want the better draft pick are not going to be thrilled about this. But the reality is that especially if they sit their starters, like if we lose that game on like a last minute play and something goes wrong, I will feel like it's a tank job because, you know what I mean? Like it might be kind of hard to lose the game at that point. So I don't know. The last time we played the Eagles on Christmas, we had over 100 yards rushing. We had 106 and then 188 in the receiving game with Darius Slayton leading the way with 90 yards. He went 3 for 3 that game. So the Eagles, had over 300 receiving and 170 rushing. So they had a better game against us, which is a surprise to no one. However, when they played the Cards, they had under 100 rushing yards. And they only had 184 receiving yards. A.J. Brown is losing his mind. They're questioning Nick Sirianni. The Eagles, I feel like, are in a little bit of turmoil right now. And this is the perfect opportunity for the Giants to win. And just to put up a fight and put up a stink and say, we can beat the Eagles, okay? We might not have in a little while, but we can beat them. And I would like it better if they played their starters and we beat them. And again, I know everyone's going to be like, why don't you care about the draft pick, blah, blah. Have you seen Evan Neal? Have you? Have you seen Evan Neal? Because the reality is whether we have pick 5 or pick 2 or pick 8, you don't know what you're getting until 2 to 3 years in their NFL career, and you still don't know. Like, Caleb Williams can be a superstar coming out of college. No one actually knows what he's going to be like in the NFL. At the end of the day, it's a risk. So we could get the 5th overall pick. We could pick another tackle who absolutely shits the bed. And then everyone's going to be screaming and bitching and moaning about it. So honestly, I would rather beat the Eagles and say, we finally beat the Eagles. I'm so sick of losing to this goddamn team twice a year, every year. And I feel the same way about the Cowboys. I have had enough losing. I am done with the losing. I want them to win, and I will deal with the repercussions of the draft pick. It's fine with me. I know it's not fine with a lot of people, but I want this team to win. I want them to beat down on the Eagles for once. It would make me really happy, okay? If we can slow down their run, which the Cardinals did last week, I know they kept the game really close, but to keep them under 100 rushing yards is amazing. Now, our biggest problem is that we're going to have to worry about Boston Scott, because Boston Scott seems like he didn't really get any carries against the Cardinals. Is he injured? I don't know. Maybe. If he's back and healthy against the Giants, though, we could be in trouble. But I do feel like the run game defense from our team has been kind of up and down, but I feel like this could be a good opportunity. Like, at the end of the day, this team is fighting. They are not tanking. They are not out there saying, we don't care if we lose to the Eagles. We don't care that we're 5-11. If they did, they would be shitting the bed on the field, which they're just not doing. I mean, Tyrod, questionable, but for the most part, he was not actively trying to lose the game. So, you know, these guys care. It's embarrassing for them when they do stupid things like that. Like, you saw Tyrod's face after that throw at the end of the game, and I kind of felt bad for him, because I was like, he knows that he literally just lost the game. So I kind of feel bad for him, but I'm also pissed at him for stupid decisions, you know? You know what I mean? Anyway, I really want them to beat the Eagles. I feel like they can if they slow down the run. If Tay Banks is going to be back, he is going to do a pretty good job of shutting down A.J. Brown. The last time the Giants played, A.J. Brown had 6 receptions for 80 yards and no touchdowns. So Devonta Smith was almost the better player that week. And if Nick McLeod continues to play well, Xavier McKinney continues to play well, we could see Jason Pinnock, we could see some of those guys shut down a little bit. So you never know. Also, here's a highlight. Boston Scott, I didn't realize this, he was the one who fumbled when the Giants played him on Christmas, so maybe he's not going to be a Giant killer anymore. We will see. But anyway, I want to see them make smart decisions. I want to see them do whatever they can to beat the Eagles, because like I said, I am sick of losing. There's no reason why the Giants can't do it. There's literally no reason. Andrew Thomas is healthy. The offensive line was a little bit better last week. Let's see if they can continue that momentum and end the season on a high note. So that's what I'm hoping to see on Sunday. It looks like I'm going to be at the game, so I'm hoping it doesn't snow. Again, retractable roof would be great for the fans. But anyway, go Giants. I'll have one more episode recapping the Giants-Eagles game next week, and then I might take a week or two break, and then we are going to go full speed ahead on the draft content. I know that's what everyone cares about. I think I'm going to do shorter episodes that go into every draft position and the top 3 to 5 guys. So we're going to go full steam into the NFL draft. The Giants, of course, will have their final draft pick at that point. We will know what it's going to look like, and we can all start on our mock drafts and our wish lists for players for this New York Giants team. So in the meantime, please subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to the podcast. There's a lot more content coming this offseason. It will not be quiet around here. You can follow me at New York Giants Fangirl on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. And we'll be back with some good Giant stuff. So I hope you guys had a great New Year, and I'll see you next week.